Welcome. Martin Freeman is here.
Good to see you.
How's it going? Good to see you.
Are we live?
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
we
live.
are.
Sit down.
That's like how that works.
Yeah. You come right in and we're good to go. Welcome, man. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, very good.
You look thinner. Was that you trying to lose it? You look good.
Do I look thinner?
Yeah. Since the last time I saw you,
When was that?
probably about 3 years ago.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I think it goes up and down, literally depending on the pie situation at any given time.
Oh, okay.
Then if there's pie available.
If there's a pie available, I will probably eat that.
So if you go through like a 6-month string of like a lot of places that have pie, you
Oh,
might
yeah.
put on a couple pounds.
Then I could be as big as a house.
Right.
Yeah.
But over the last couple years, there hasn't been that many pies.
No, I try. I mean, in all honesty, I try and be vaguely sensible without being obsessive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try not to make it the focus of my life because I love food.
Mm-hmm.
But then, when I hit 40, I kind of thought, well, this is only going to go potentially downhill.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'd better sort of start looking after myself.
Do you catch
because
yourself looking in the mirror and like, oh, my fat roll is hanging over? I get those horrible
I would
moments.
never have anything like that because I've got to have a perfect body.
Oh yeah.
So no, I look at myself in the mirror and go, Christ, why wasn't I in 300? That's my main.
Right.
That's my main
what
inner
occurs to
monologue.
you.
Yeah.
I literally will sit doing this show. We'll be in the middle of an interview, and I'll catch Jim out of the corner of my eye as I'm asking a question, just completely lose focus, look down at his gut, and just make a face. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I can't help it. When you're sitting, it's just there and it just hangs over a
It
little
just
bit.
collects, right?
But don't you think sometimes it comes as a surprise? Your middle comes as a surprise because you can think I'm doing fine with my middle. It's fine, and
Right.
then you put a certain thing on, or you put a certain jumper that's a sweater that's a bit too thick or something.
Right.
And also, you eat pies, and then you think, "Oh no, I'm not doing that well."
Right. Yeah, like you'll put on a T-shirt that's a little too clingy, and you're like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I'd grown breasts.
Man, I've done things where on camera. Unfortunately, my work life is on camera,
Right.
And sometimes I've worn something. I think I look fine in this, and
Yeah.
I see it back and go, "Why did no one tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me?"
Because no one on the set's going to tell you, like,
But they
you look,
should.
Yeah, they should.
But
yeah.
wardrobe
Don't
should be.
bother him.
Yeah.
Don't bother him. And you're like, no, please.
No, please
bother me.
Yeah, bother me.
And there's got to be a way for them to say it without being insulting. Like, we don't know.
I think there is. I think that given that I'm a reasonably approachable person, someone could probably say, "I'm telling you now, that's not the most flattering thing you've ever worn," and I would probably pick up that code. As being,
That's a pretty. That's a
too many
pretty.
pies.
Yeah, that's not very flattering. It's like you're going to blow your brains out when you see yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, maybe go layers today because everything is everything is touching in the wrong spots.
Yeah, men.
Do you watch your stuff back? Like, do you?
I only watch my stuff. Yeah.
This is
watch
my
my stuff
DVD collection.
Back, front, any way you want to sit. Yeah. Yes, I will always see something at least once.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, it will only be once. You know, but I just think everything is kind of instructive.
What have you liked that you've done? Because you've done, I'd say, more than most actors. You've done a lot of projects that people become super fans of. Whether it's, like Sherlock, people are super fans, or, The Office, obviously, Fargo, Lord of the Rings. People develop these, fascinations with these projects.
Yeah.
What do you like that you've done?
Well, I like all of those things. I mean, I really like, and I like a lot of things that other people haven't seen. I've been, as I'm sure we all have. We've done work where we think I'm really proud of that, and no one else cares about it or knows about it.
Right.
I've done things like that 20 people have seen, but of the famous stuff, I like all that. I mean, it's a sort of, I suppose The Office is when I became known,
Right.
and that was very up my street. Yeah, that
You
was
like
very
that?
my. Yeah, it was just completely my taste.
Yeah.
As well, I loved it. I loved doing it, and it was a joy every day to do.
And they're all original feeling. Like the original Office changed. I mean, that was the first to do it that way with like the mock documentary.
Yeah.
And Sherlock is so originally shot.
It's beautifully shot.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's one episode where you're blogging. I think it was in season 2.
Yeah.
And the words are just showing up on the screen. It was just such an original way to do a show.
Well, I mean, I think the visual vocabulary of the show of Sherlock was kind of started largely by the first director, a Scottish guy called Paul McGuigan, who's worked here a lot as well. He's a kind of visual genius, really. And I think that decision to just not cut away to a phone when there's a text, or not cut away to a screen when there's an email, but just have it on screen, has obviously, I've seen that since, and that's been pretty influential. And
Yeah.
also, once it happens, you think, yeah, of course, why don't we just do that? like, we'll buy that.
It
just
we
feels
don't need to see the
updated.
screen, you know.
It feels updated. It feels more current than seeing something going right to a
Yeah,
screen.
it does. It's like when I see things cut away to a script. I mean, of course, you can still do that well, and things that are good might still do that. But it suddenly looks a bit clunky now.
It does, and I mean, like visually, it makes more sense, right? Because like when we look at a screen, we generally still have peripheral
Yeah, we
vision.
do, yeah.
So we're
Yeah, we
kind of
do.
aware of what's going on
We
elsewhere.
do, yeah. And I think it's just a nice aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think just a stylistic thing. I think it's really good just to do something to an audience subconsciously that goes, oh, I haven't seen that before, you know.
Do you like stuff like that? Because I would assume you don't know, unless I guess it's described in the script. But I would assume you don't know that's going to happen until.
No, not the first time. I think now it tends to get written in. It's sort of assumed now that when there is text, you know, when characters text or email each other, it's assumed that we will see it on screen like that. But the first time
You go like, oh, that's a cool choice. Like,
yeah. But like the first time it happened, it was like, oh wow, that was a complete surprise to all of us.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we get so used to hearing the click of the keyboard, and then I went like watching the guy sound out what he's saying, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like the worst. Watching
Yes.
people type is terrible.
I know. But also, I feel that like being an actor in this century, so much of you do a lot of scenes with technology, more than I want to actually.
You get a little sick of it.
I just want to do 12 Angry Men. I just want to sit around a table
Yeah.
and talk and argue and drink coffee. Like, if I could do that, that's for me the blueprint of all great enjoyment as an actor.
Yeah.
Just to talk and shout at people.
Did you the original? You saw the original, right? That's the better one.
I mean, but certainly that is a great film. But just that idea of just human beings, doing things to each other in a space, not in that way. you can if you want.
depending.
I'm
Yeah.
open to that as well. But just
Absolutely depends
certainly
on the film.
Emotional and psychological things to each other, without a screen in sight, I think would be marvelous.
What did you do before you acted?
Very little, actually. Yeah,
Really?
very little. I knew I wanted to be an actor from about 17, 18. So I never had a proper job. Do you know what I mean? I never had like another trade.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
There's very few people that really who weren't child actors who just start out kind of in young adulthood and just make a career out of it. That's amazing.
Are they? Oh, okay. Right. No, I've certainly been very lucky.
Pulling your mic closer.
Okay, thank you. See, I'm not very techno. I don't know that no one's been able to hear me for the last
Oh
time.
no, we have. That's why I have both
No,
headphones
it's
on.
just been a personal conversation
Yeah,
amongst
yeah,
us.
yeah.
We're not even on yet. We're coming back on at 10.
Thank you, yeah. Oh, I'm going to be so tired by the time this is for the public. But I didn't go to drama school till I was like 21. So I was out in the world working at 23. Yeah, so kind of youngish, but not that young.
Why'd you want to be an actor? Like, I mean, obviously we love doing it, but did you just see somebody and go, "That's what I want to do," or what made you want to do it?
Probably a mixture of obviously, I guess a mixture of seeing movies and the odd play, and just seeing drama and seeing comedy that I loved. But also, I joined a youth theatre. I think I had this idea as a 15-year-old, as a little lefty 15-year-old, that somehow theatre was going to be kind of a political act. I did sort of. I had that idea as well. Yeah.
Will you be able to
Make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I did. However naive that is or was, I think I probably thought it was. I don't
So
know.
when did you get to the point where you were like, well, no, acting is just acting, and I have to be okay with that? I'm not.
Yeah. Well, quite early on.
Yeah.
Really. I think quite early on because although I think it can, not acting itself, but acting as part of the storytelling process, I think can make little differences. I think just as the mood music of our culture, music, cinema, plays, books, art, they do make a difference, definitely. But if it made that much of a difference, they'd ban it, as the old saying goes. If it was that effective, they'd make it illegal.
Is there anything you want to address in acting that you haven't been able to yet? Like, is there anything you're like, I would love to kind of take this on or tackle this?
No, I have to say, I'm kind of, I'm in a place at the moment where I am very happy with where things are going. As far as, I think in the wake of The Office, I think people either just, a lot of people thought I was a stand-up, and a lot of people would have assumed that I was from that background, because at that time in the UK I was doing lots of comedy bits, and I certainly was not a stand-up, but so then it was my goal to kind of, I want to kind of do straighter things, do a bit more dramatic things, and I've kind of feel I'm doing that. you
Yeah. That you're not looked at as he's a comic actor.
Certainly not. I
Right.
mean, no, most of the time, I mean, for people under 30, I mean, people never talk to me about The Office. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that, it's not really a thing.
Isn't that amazing?
It kind of is amazing.
Especially from where you were
Absolutely, yeah.
right
Considering
after
when
it.
I was 30, that's all people were talking to me about, and thank God for it. You know, I was very proud of it. But no, it doesn't really figure for people who've sort of gotten into the things that I do in the last sort of 5-6 years.
It holds up, though. I watched with somebody who had never seen the original. She was big on the American, and which was good, I guess. But I was
like
like,
the
you got to
American,
see the
yeah,
original.
yeah.
So we watched
Yeah.
the series finale last night. Finally,
Okay, yeah.
so good. I mean, it's just it's. I think it's the best like sitcom, quote unquote, that's ever been done because it's so perfectly acted and everybody in it's believable.
Yeah.
And flawed, and the clothes were imperfect.
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah,
a bunch of really beautiful people in
Plus,
perfect clothes.
Like
No,
most of the
sure,
humor
yeah.
is like understated and real.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad you like it. I still think it's really good. You know, if ever I catch it now, if it's on, I think that does really hold up.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, because for Ricky and Stephen, and where I sort of bonded with them it was The Simpsons, Laurel and Hardy, and Spinal Tap. That was the things that I remember we were always talking about. You know, and so I guess that show has little snippets of all those things. You know, but certainly Spinal Tap as the truly first and still, I think, best executed mock doc thing is a huge influence on anything that comes in that vein since then. Because, again, there are very few times in Spinal Tap where you think, oh, this is a joke, you know. My favourite bits of Spinal Tap are the bits, just the throwaway bits, the bits that aren't, you know, it's not all these go up to 11 and Stonehenge bits, even though those are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just the little bits that people are just things that the characters are doing to each other non-verbally a lot of the time. I think it's just true genius. You know?
Did you audition for The Office? Was it just
I
a
did,
gig?
yeah. I did. It was. I auditioned. Ricky wasn't it? It was Stephen Merchant was in the room with Asher Talla, the producer. I had worked with Ricky on a sketch show earlier that year. Excuse me. He had written a few sketches for a sketch show that I did with a team of very good. You know, I was young. I was like 27. With a team of very good sort of young British comedy people, and Ricky's material was just obviously really fun. It was genuinely funny, you know, in a slightly off-kilter way. And so when I saw that he and Stephen had written this script, I was sent up for the audition, and I read for Gareth, the part of Gareth, who Mackenzie Crook played, and that went however it went. And I was on my way out, literally, and Stephen said, "I think maybe you should read for Tim." And it was like one of those showbiz moments where I was nearly out the door, you know,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have got it because Mackenzie was great as Gareth, and that was what that was supposed to be. So I came back and read as Tim, and it was just much more natural, I suppose.
Is there,
And that
is there
fit you
footage
better.
of you reading as Gareth?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Is there footage of that? Was that
I'm
filmed?
not sure. It might have been. I mean, this was late '99, so I'm not sure. I mean, I wasn't doing what Mackenzie. I wasn't
Right.
doing that accent, and I wasn't. You know, obviously the hair and everything is a pretty specific thing. I don't know what I would have done as Gareth, but you know, Gareth is now. That's Mackenzie. What he does is great, and yeah, clearly what I did as Tim was just more natural fit for me.
But sometimes you see these audition tapes of people who audition
Yeah.
for roles. You know, John Goodman is a Godfather. You're like, holy shit!
I love that Godfather stuff. I love all the people you sort of see reading for Coppola in the early '70s. You think, wow, that would have been a different film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, De Niro read for the first one, I think, and
he did as
and
well,
as
yeah.
Michael, I think, or Sonny.
He did, I think. Yeah.
And you see once in a while a few people that read. It's always interesting to see somebody reading for something. I would love to see it.
Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen read for The Godfather as well.
Right.
I think he might have read for Michael. Well, Robert Redford read. I believe Robert Redford was touted around originally for Michael Corleone.
Oh,
I
really?
think,
Wow.
yeah. But Coppola obviously went, no, he's great and he's loved, but he doesn't really look very Sicilian. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that. I love it because, again, if those people had got the parts, you think, well, it might still have been who
Sure.
knows? It might have been. When people say, I never trust when people say you were the only person who could have played. Well, of course you're not. Of course you're not. 15 other people could have played it. It just would have been different, and it might have been better. It might have been worse. But there's always more than you in line for a part.
Well, there's footage too. They had started shooting Apocalypse Now with Harvey Keitel in Martin Sheen's role,
yeah.
and I would love to see that footage. I don't know if he got fired or if they didn't agree on. I'm not sure why it happened, but I know that there was like a long shoot.
Well, there's
That's
that.
right.
They did like half of Back to the Future with Eric Stoltz.
Right.
Like almost a full half of the movie.
I only found that out very recently.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Someone
And then
told me that recently.
There is footage of that though. You can see.
I think they
moments of
put it
that.
on the DVD eventually. But then, and then they had to bring in Michael J. Fox and reshoot the entire half of the movie that they'd already shot.
What happens when when something's not working and they have to tell you, like, that's got to be humiliating?
That would be really hard, I think. It would be really, really hard. Obviously, it's never happened to me because I am not a flawless actor, but I'm certainly, I'm getting on for that. No, I don't know. And I've asked myself that, like, that would be a very, very tough call, not just for you to hear it, but how the hell do you tell someone? If you're a nice human being, how do you say, sorry, we're going to go in another direction? Even though
you tell the agent. They tell the agent. And here, by the way, and then it goes on to be a massive hit.
Yeah.
Because Michael J. Fox was so great. Then you're like, you can't even deny that they made the right call.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. Unless you're just trying to say, like, well, I think just the whole movie was a big hit. I would have been just as good. It would have been a hit regardless.
But that's true. Because obviously Michael J. Fox was fantastic in that. He was already fantastic on TV. But I'm sure Eric Stoltz would have been really good, and the film would have been, because the film's a good idea and it's well directed, and Christopher Lloyd's great. So it would
Everybody's
still have
good
worked.
in that movie.
It would still have worked.
Yeah. Just on what level?
I know. But I want to see more. I want to see Harvey Keitel. Doing more. I can't picture him. Vietnam shit. I just can't. I can't picture it. I really, really want to see that.
You should see his tape as Sherlock. That was.
It's like you got to put your pants on. You can't be naked in this. By the way, and Benedict Cumberbatch is so great as Sherlock Holmes. He's such it's hard to be so unique with a role that has been done by a lot of different people over the years.
Yeah.
And you guys pulled it off.
No, he's definitely brought something else in. Like you say, it's over a century old, that part, and there have been so many incarnations of it. But Benedict, he has something special about his incarnation, without question. Yeah.
I guess you could ask the same question about the Hobbit series, but we had Billy Bob Thornton in here a couple weeks ago, and the question I asked him about Fargo, which is the same one for you, is when you sign up to do that show, how do you... What was that noise?
That's my drilling. I'm doing internal. I'm doing
Someone's
internal
phone?
drilling.
I don't know what.
A drill?
I was like, wait, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they're doing stuff outside. I guess it picked up in
Jesus.
here. Why would you equip the radio studio to be fully soundproof?
Oh, yeah. What was that? Oh, no. Somebody dropped a ring on the outside. Good.
How do you know when you sign up to do a show like that it's going to be what it was, which is an original work and not kind of a rehash of this movie that everybody loves? You know what I mean? Because it's a risk.
It's a very big risk, and the show could have gone, it could have been awful.
Especially for your character specifically, because that's so obviously like... The essence is inspired by William H. Macy's character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my purpose, I read the first episode, and there were, I mean, particularly there's a scene in the first episode of Fargo between my character and Billy's character in a hospital where he kind of basically does a kind of mind trick on me and sort of with his charisma lures me into the possibility of, killing people. And that was so brilliantly written and so compellingly written. I thought, I have to do this, As for the Bill Macy thing, I can honestly say, and it won't surprise you, I didn't go near it. I was like, I still haven't seen the entire film since 1998 or whatever,
Yeah.
Because I thought there's no way I'm going to go, what can I pick? That's disastrous.
It is, of course.
Did they offer you this part? You didn't have to read for it. They offered it to you.
I did not have to read for it.
Wow.
Which again was kind of amazing because, again, that accent's pretty specific.
Yeah.
And that could have been awful. It could have been horrendous, a horrendous mistake.
But you have to be very proud of that, because that, I mean, obviously, that was an award-winning show. That was a great performance.
Thank you. No, I'm very pleased with that. But at the same time, I didn't have a single bad day on it. The whole show was, Noah Hawley is a great writer. He had a great vision for that show, I think, to make it, to kind of have a nod toward the Coen brothers without sort of slavishly aping them, but just for being its own show.
Right.
Billy's amazing.
Yes.
Alison Tolman's amazing. Bob Odenkirk's. Everyone was fantastic in it. Colin Hanks. It was full of quality.
You also give the casting director a lot of credit for that. We need somebody from Minnesota or Fargo, North Dakota. That accent. Who should we get? Martin Freeman. He's British. What a genius casting director to look at you and go, this is the guy for that.
Well, that's
brilliant.
It's always very nice to feel trusted. Because if you think that people are trusting you with things that are slightly outside of what they've seen you do, that's a big vote of confidence.
Had you done American accents before on film?
I had, but not many, and I've done a few since then. But not that specific thing, because
Yeah.
that's not just like, oh, it's, none of you guys sound like that. It's a very specific thing.
Is it easy to do an American accent? Because British actors pull it off so well in so many shows, and it just seems to me like it would be very hard to do if you didn't. Because I don't really recognize differences in British accents.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, because there are massive, massive differences. I think maybe you don't hear, you might not hear Geordie or Scouse or Manc very often, but that they are there, or even. I think people even here have a hard time between Scots and Irish, which to us is a very clear difference.
Yeah.
I think it helps that we grew up with jazz, rock and roll, and Hollywood. Do you know what I mean? So that those things are sort of intravenously put into you from a very early age, so that we all know the difference between Tony Soprano and whoever
country music,
yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
So those accents are kind of in your map somewhere. We'd need to learn about the specifics of them, and obviously I need to work my arse off to get that to get Lester Nygaard's accent, but still, you have a general thing, whereas I think in America, I don't know what, you probably hear a very, very limited amount of English accents.
Right, and it's just British. Like,
well,
that's
yeah,
just
to you
the
it's British,
accent.
and to
Right.
us, of course, British is 4 countries. You know
Right.
what I mean? So there's Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and England. That's
Right.
4 countries, and within those places, there's loads of accents.
Where did you get the Lester's accent from? If it wasn't, because obviously you're not just going to pull the accent from the movie, as you just said. So like, did you have to find out how the people spoke?
I had a voice coach for about 3 or 4 Skype sessions, and then I had there was a guy on set all the time who took kind of for everyone, because not many people were from Minnesota on that job, So he was there kind of helping us all on the day.
Were there moments where he went, "Well, you got to redo that. That didn't come out proper"?
No, because by the time, never that. But for instance, if I would be reading it with him, he said, "Let me just hear you read that line," and I'd read it, and he would amend maybe a bit of pronunciation there. So by the time you get in front of camera, you shouldn't be having to do it again because of accent. But I would, like, if I'd had a week off or 2 weeks off. Excuse me, I would just pull up things on YouTube, just real Minnesotans talking.
Right.
I would pick up that.
You just go on YouTube and look at Minnesota person talking.
You can do. I mean, when you do Minnesotan accent, I mean, the trouble is very often, people use those accent things as a way of kind of showing off their broad array of accents. But when you hear the real deal, that just keyed me back into it, because some of those vowel sounds are sort of, as for a foreigner, they're pretty surprising.
What's a surprising vowel sound?
I had a line in it that was something like I think the line was, "I have to drink it through a straw." That was the thing. So I think I said, "Yeah, I have to drink it through a straw," and the guy and the accent coach said, "No, it's stra." I was like, "Stra?" I was like, I couldn't believe that STRAW ended up saying stra, but it was, and I thought that can't be right, but he was right. Some of it is more extreme than you would think, and some of it is less extreme than you would think. I think on that show we were trying not to make it cartoony and trying to respect the people who actually lived in Minnesota rather than make them all the butt of a SNL skit.
Right.
I think my favorite part of that show was the development of the characters, because I keep coming back to the scene at the end of that season in the elevator.
Yeah.
Because you have like this ego about you that you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And like it's this instant where you get reminded
Absolutely,
that no matter what, you're both exactly who you were. You and Billy Bob are exactly who you were when the show started.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I don't mean what we did was brilliant, but all Billy was bloody marvelous. But it's just so good. It's really well written. So every episode that you read, you just go, "Wow, I get to do that. Oh, I get to do that." It's really exciting.
Do you turn stuff down, or are you just like, "Yeah, I'm an actor. I'm a working actor"? Because a lot of actors, when you ask them like, "Oh, how do you make your choices?" They'll tell you, "Well, they offer me," and then I go, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it wherever the job is. I'll take it."
No, I don't do that. No, I do. I don't turn things down. Yeah, I do. I mean, because I've always believed in if you've got 7 kids to feed and you need to make the rent, then all bets are off.
Sure,
I fully get that. And if you just like being out of the house all the live long day, fine. But no, I've always believed in my taste. You know what I mean? Like, I've always believed that should play a part of it.
Do you have kids?
I do, 7. I've got to feed them. I have 2 kids, but I think once you've made the rent, and I think once you can feed people, then I think, well, choose. My feeling for me is I would not forgive myself if I didn't feel I was trying to choose wisely.
And one would hope, right, that if you start choosy, then people will start associating you with those projects
There's
that
no
you
question.
consider are good.
With unique
question.
projects.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you need the luck in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think why not help make your own luck by exercising your taste?
Yeah.
Because everyone says that as an actor, the only power you've got is to say no. So I say no a lot. I believe in that. Yeah.
When when The Office was first aired in Britain, didn't it not do as well as it eventually did? Like the first, they didn't take to it at first. So were you like, oh God, this is a bust?
No, I never thought it was a bust because, again, that was my biggest part on TV so far. So either way, I thought, well, hey, listen, if some people like it, that's great.
Right.
And I knew it had a small core of followers. But yeah, the first time it went out like in the summer, BBC Two, 9 o'clock, no stars in it, you know, so it was all pretty unknown cast. And some people, the ultimate accolade for me is that genuinely some people read it and occasionally even reviewed it like it was a real documentary. And I thought, well, we've done it.
That's
That
great.
was the perfect
Yeah.
accolade, you know, because they believed we were real people. They then re-showed it, I think about 4 or 5 months later, and then it really, really did very well. I mean, I think, yeah, when it went out, I knew that there were a hardcore of fans who loved it in that tappy way, in that Spinal Tappy way of like, there's something detailed here and there's something going on. But it got very, very popular sort of, half a year later, where it was a big deal.
And I would imagine when you're picking projects, like part of that is that right when that does become a big deal, everybody wants the guy from The Office to be like they just
Sure.
take that character and put it into
Absolutely.
their project, and probably the same thing with a lot of the stuff that you've done.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and that's what you have to try and
Avoid.
fight against and
Yeah.
try and kind of accept it to a certain degree, accept that that's the reality of it, of course, but to try and just manipulate it so that you can go, okay, I know you want me to do that, but I also want to do this. You know?
And when you hear about Ricky's doing Life on the Road, which is
Yeah.
the David Brent, were you approached to be in that, or did you not want to do
No,
it?
not at all. No, I wasn't approached. I mean, I've seen it and it makes me laugh because I think that character is a very, very funny character and it's brilliantly executed. But no one else I think, that was just his own thing. You know?
Yeah, it was totally separate from.
Totally separate, yeah, but just that character doing.
Is there a part of you that goes like, oh, I wish I could have brought back my character as well and done something with this, or are you kind of
In
good?
all honesty, never. No,
sitting
never,
there?
ever.
Yeah.
No, never. Because I believe in the finite nature of things, you know,
Yeah.
and I like things being left alone. You know, I've never been a massive fan of reunions. I've never been a massive fan of. Yeah, just again, when I was a kid.
Don't tell that to the girls from Full House that were just in here.
Exactly. they live for reunions.
Yeah, they're like, no, you'd be surprised, Martin. Reunions can be great.
No, and I'm sure. Listen, if Ricky and Steve wrote a phenomenal episode of The Office,
Right.
then I would have to obviously consider that very seriously.
Sure.
But when I was a kid, reunions were seen as kind of tacky, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like bands reuniting was kind of, they didn't do it, you know. And now it's absolutely part of our cultural life that everyone, right, it's 5 minutes, we've now got to get together again, you know, because the bank account's
We
a bit
cashed in
lower.
on
Yeah,
something. Like,
exactly.
let's milk it. We got to
Exactly.
milk it till it's dry.
And while you're milking it, and there's unquestionably a massive financial aspect to that, you also have to pretend that you're doing it for great artistic and cultural reasons as well. And sometimes you might be, you know, you might be. But I don't know. I like things. I don't think we're going to make an episode better than we made 14, 15 years ago.
How long do you think you're going to do Sherlock for? Because Sherlock season 4, series 4, I guess it is, premieres January 1st
Yes.
at 9 p.m. on PBS.
It sure does.
4 is a lot for you for the series that you've done.
Right,
Like you're
yeah.
either 2 or 1 season
Well,
or
didn't
whatever.
the first season of or series of didn't they? How many episodes were in the first series of
There
Sherlock?
are
There's
only
like 3.
There are only 3 in all of them.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
no, didn't part? I'm correct. Didn't the third series have 7?
No, there's 3. It's literally been 4 seasons of 3 episodes and 1 special. We
You were
had
way
a special
off.
last year called The Abominable Bride. Yeah. That was all. No, they've only been 3, but they're all an hour and a half. You know, so it's like we're giving you 3 little movies.
Right.
So it's, you know, it's not that stingy.
Right, right. Do you have any idea how long you want this to run on for, just until it's not good because it's still good?
I just think until it's a natural pause. I think life does sometimes have a way of telling you,
Yeah.
oh, this is probably it now. I mean, it does feel like, you know, this last series did have a feeling of, I don't know whether it's finality to it, but it certainly had a feeling of a pause to
Right.
it. It definitely had a feeling of that. And I'm never ever afraid of things ending. You know, I don't mean, I'm not looking forward to life ending or love ending or whatever, but things that we make, I think should end.
You really do have a very good grasp on finite things, like because you do leave people wanting more. Like that, you guys easily could have been in another season of Fargo. People would have enjoyed seeing you do something. Or The Office,
everything, yeah.
They did not 6 and then a 2-part series. And it's like, ugh,
yeah, I know.
Jesus Christ, that was fast.
But can you imagine though that the alternative is, and we all know the alternative is that you leave people wanting less, and people saying, "I wish you'd stopped 5 years ago," and that's not a good place to be. However much money you've made,
I've been doing that my entire career.
I know. I want less from you just from this.
Right. Yeah. The great news I was going to say for everybody is this is the ending of this interview. It's over now.
I've really enjoyed it.
That was great. Yes, and like Sam said, Series 4 Sunday, January 1st, 9 o'clock on PBS.
Yeah,
Just amazing.
it's a great show.
It's so great.
And Martin, it's been great talking to you, man.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.